afternoon, everyone. Welcome to FL-IDN for 2019 webinar series. My name is Tom Tu. I am a statewide programs coordinator and instructional designer here at FL-IDN Florida Virtual Campus. Today's session, we are covering strategies for managing instructional designers' workload. We have 6 panelists joining us who are experts in this topic area. We will start with meet our wonderful panel team. Each of them will introduce themselves, and then we will open the discussion session and feel free to ask your questions. Let's start meeting our panelists.
Hi, everyone. My name is Michelle Franz. I'm the Dean of E-Learning at Seminole State College of Florida, so we're right outside of Orlando. A little bit about my team. There are 4 instructional designers. We have a systems analyst who manages all of our applications, integrations, data, all the kind of techie tech stuff, programming. We have a DE support specialist, so she does administrative work as well as student and faculty support and retention initiatives. We also have an online course accessibility assistant, so that individual is tasked with making sure that our courses are compliant with ADA requirements.
This is Wendy Howard, and I'm from the University of Central Florida in Orlando. I am currently the director of our Pegasus Innovation Lab, which is a fairly new position we created about a year ago as kind of the iLab, for short, for Pegasus Innovation Lab, is really a program management office for our institutional level digital learning initiatives that started to pull together various siloed projects that were happening in the instructional design team. So I also come from our instructional design team, so I have that background prior to moving into this role. I'm part of the Center for Distributed Learning, which is CDL, so that's shortened there. The link, if you have access to these slides after the session, the link will take you to our organizational structure. We have roughly 80 employees in the Center for Distributed Learning, and it fluctuates all the time because we have a lot of student employees. But on our full-time staff, we have 21 instructional designers, are actually specialists in adaptive learning, and that's their focus. We also have 8 content developers. So they focus on accommodation requests and non-credit bearing course development. We have 2 administrators, and then we also have multiple support teams with specializations in graphics, video. We have a Canvas support team for both students and faculty, and then we have a team of developers who do web development and app development.
Thank you, Wendy. Our next panelist is Michelle. Please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Michelle Piper. I work at St. Petersburg College as the Instructional Technology Manager here. I oversee a team of 4 instructional technology specialists and 2 instructional support technicians. And our team's role is to support our faculty in the use of the LMS. The D2L is what we use. So we handle the day-to-day support of faculty, technical issues with the LMS, as well as helping faculty design content. We do faculty professional development. We partner with our Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning, as well as some other groups to provide our faculty with different.
Thank you, Michelle. We have Colleen here. Colleen, please go ahead, introduce yourself and your team. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Colleen Reiner, and I am from University of South Florida's Center for Advanced Medical Learning and Simulation. And as you can see, we have a number of staff here in our unit, but none of them are actually called instructional designers. And I think the more that we talk on these different sites, we'll see we have a lot of people who are doing instructional design, but don't fall under that title. So I'm really interested to hear a little bit more about your teams and how you manage instructional designers.
Thank you, Colleen. Vicki, go ahead.
Good afternoon. I'm Vicki Westergard. I'm from St. Petersburg College. You may have noticed there are 2 of us on. I'm the executive director of my team on the instructional design side consists of instructional design specialists. Those are people that work with faculty directly on instructional design. 4 instructional design technicians who actually have instructional design backgrounds, but will build the learning objects and other interactives that faculty want to use in their classes. We also have a graphic designer, a course assistant who does a lot of different things, but a lot of what she does is captioning of our standard courses. And we have a couple of videographers as well that assist with helping us put together stuff for our standard courses.
Thank you, Vicki.
Hi, everyone. I'm Geni Wright. I'm the Director for Online Teaching and Learning at Valencia College in Orlando. My specific team, I have 6 faculty developer instructional designers and 2 multimedia designers, and they work alongside and in collaboration with 9 campus-based faculty developer instructional designers across 7 campuses along Orange and Osceola County. And the team really works alongside and collaborates and supports faculty in all stages of a course life cycle. So from the initial stages in the thought process to facilitation and then any sort of revisions. Specifically, this team, the online team, is focused on working with faculty to prepare them for our course peer review process in support of Valencia's strategic initiative for online course success. So they kind of straddle both campus-based strategies and online institutional strategies.
So we're moving on to our next section. I will ask a question to our panel team to start the conversation, and after that, you please feel free to propose and ask your questions regarding how strategies to reduce instructional designers' workload, or you can type in the chat area. As we all know, due to our unique role and expertise in supporting teaching, learning, and technology initiatives, demand for instructional design and instructional technology positions is increasing across higher education institutions in Florida. Faculty and administrators' expectations for us for our services are higher than ever before. As instructional designers or instructional technologies professionals, at times we may experience challenges maintaining a healthy balance among the quantity and quality of work, our personal well-being, as well as our professional development time and opportunities. My first question to our panel team is, from an instructional design or instructional technology professional's perspective, have you or your team members experienced workload issue? What are the challenges and why? Our panel team members, please feel free to jump in and share your answers or thoughts and ideas with us.
Franz at Seminole, and I'll chime in first because it looks like that my team is the smallest. And so those of you who have a very small team, we have a lot of work to do with not as many human resources. So, we are tasked with supporting 16 different applications, including Canvas, faculty development, student support to a degree, course development, quality assurance, accessibility. So we've got a lot of different fingers and different pies, and it's difficult for us to do more with less. And for us, what we do is we just have to be very careful about the kinds of processes that we put in place and make sure that we're not creating situations that are more cumbersome than they need to be. We also need to prioritize well. And so from a supervisory standpoint, what I try to do is create a lead designer on any given initiative so that that person kind of keeps track of what the workload is and how that's impacting the larger whole. And then I can work more efficiently to support the folks both underneath me and then as that are working on part of that as a team.
Thank you, Michelle.
This is Michelle Piper at St. Petersburg College, and I just felt that on a very spiritual level because we have a very small. We have 9 campuses to support, and we do all on-campus support as well as online, Facebook, everything. But one of the things that we've tried to do is identify the peak times when we're at the busiest. So we all know August, just like the black hole month, because you've got faculty returning after being gone for summer. So I've worked with my team to do, peak hour work, peak hour scheduling and things like that, taking those into account. And then, during the less busy times, semester, we can kind of be a little more flexible with schedules. For example, this semester we just enacted a weekend support, which we have never done before, but our faculty have told us they want it. A lot of them have due dates on the weekends. And my team was either stepping on each other's toes trying to answer emails on the weekends. I would answer, and then my colleague would also answer within 5 minutes, so the faculty would get 2 answers. Or no one would answer because everyone thought somebody else would do it. So we've actually started something new this semester, which has gone over really well with my team. Friday afternoon off, after 12, they take off for the day, and then they check email once or twice on Saturday and once or twice on Sunday. It's never a lot of emails that they have to answer on the weekend, but I know, and I can be comfortable with the manager that emails are being answered, and then they're not doing additional work on a Friday afternoon when we tend to be really quiet anyway, because most faculty aren't on campus on Fridays. Sure that emails are being answered on the weekends, and my team's not overly stressed with that weekend support.
Thank you, Michelle. Anyone else?
Hi, this is Geni. So I would say, kind of coupling on what's already been said. So our work at Valencia, our team, and really the entire faculty developer instructional design team, under teaching and learning division, we are engaged in every initiative at the college. So our work touches everything, regardless of what campus you're in, if you're online or not. And so that often requires the team to be very adaptive. And it forces us, because we're distributed at multiple campuses, to be collaborative and overly communicative. So it's also, we benefit from having access to resources, but taking advantage of resources that the institution has, like Microsoft Teams, and being able to share files and resources so that it enables us to adapt and edit workflow a little bit easier, much more efficiently. So that the team can continue to move forward while also supporting faculty that are right there next to them, but they can continue to communicate and share information, access individuals that might be stronger in certain areas than where they are at that time, in that moment in real time, to support that faculty member. So I think part of our challenge is really kind of continuing that workflow through kind of this distributed resources, human or otherwise, just to make sure that we're also up to date with all of our information and that all of our kind of processes continue to stay up to date so everybody's on the same page.
Thank you, Geni.
This is Wendy at UCF. I'll chime in next. I think we may be a little bit unique in that our instructional designers are actually faculty line. So it's a slightly different job description than what I've learned at other universities and colleges. And so I'll speak to that. In mirroring the teaching faculty's annual assignments, we basically tried to mirror their same structure for promotion and advancement. And so our annual assignments, we just replace their teaching load with what we call professional responsibilities, which includes faculty development, individualized faculty support through consultations, and special projects that support faculty with online teaching. And so most of our instructional designers have an annual assignment of 80% those professional responsibilities, but then they also have a 15% annual assignment for scholarship, just like teaching faculty do. So they still conduct research and present and publish. And then we have also 5% service, much like the teaching faculty do. And so what we try to do, or what I try instructional designers who are struggling with time management, is I go back to the old metaphor of the rocks, pebbles, and sand. The rocks of what we do is really those professional responsibilities. So those need to be addressed. Faculty development responsibilities and individual faculty consultations need to be taken care of first before we can even think about the fun stuff of scholarship and service. And as faculty line, the instructional designers have a lot of independence over their schedule in choosing what they do. And sometimes it's easy to get distracted by the pebbles in the sand because you're pursuing your line of inquiry, professional research, and sometimes that can be a lot more exciting than your daily responsibilities or even service. It's hard to organizations or opportunities that you are really passionate about. So if you are trying to fill up a jar and you start with the sand, there's never any room for the rocks left. So try to always focus on address the rocks first, then with pebbles, and then you can fill in those smaller gaps with the sand.
Thank you, Wendy. I noticed Eric asked a question in the chat earlier. He has seen in some job descriptions where there are faculty and others where there are staff. What is the difference between those classifications? And I think, Wendy, you just probably partially covered this, but I'd like if you have more to share on this, or other panelists or anybody from the audience, if you have any insights on this, please feel free to jump in.
Well, I can speak to at UCF, there are two distinct differences that I've observed because we have instructional developers who do have an instructional design background, but their staff, whereas our instructional designer are faculty line. And the biggest there's two differences. The first biggest difference, faculty are part of a union, they're unionized, and so there's collective bargaining where just different workplace issues are bargained differently for faculty than they are for staff. So that's one big difference. And then the other one is the emphasis on scholarship. So our designers do have a requirement in order to get promotion. They are required to conduct research and publish and present, whereas staff do not. They're invited to and welcome to, but it's not a requirement for promotion.
This is Michelle Franz again at Seminole, and we are staff. We are not faculty. One of the things I think that is an advantage of being a staff member is credibility. I think faculty tend to want to work with their peers more than they want to be told what to do by somebody who's not an academician in their perspective. So we actually, spend some time trying to working with culture change to get faculty comfortable with the idea that we are academicians in our own right, in our area. Our area happens to be instructional design, and we're all master's level, experts in our field. And so that's the key critical difference between what a staff member, what an instructional designer who is a staff member versus a faculty member is. And then also, and I think in some cases, I can't speak to it myself, but some faculty lines are required to teach. So that's just more to manage in your workload besides the design pieces.
Yeah, and Michelle, I'll add to that while it helps a little bit with credibility, we can cite research that we or our colleagues have published. We're still fighting the same challenges that you are. And we have to often remind our teaching faculty that we're faculty as well. But a lot of times we just find ourselves trying to include other teaching faculty whenever it makes sense, so that even if we're both telling, like in a faculty development situation, even if we're both telling our audience the same thing, sometimes they just trust their teaching faculty colleagues even more than they trust us.
From St. Petersburg College. So 2015, we took on a project that we call Standard Course Revitalization. And we, at that time, we had adopted Quality Matters, and we were intent on working directly with faculty to create courses with them. And having had courses online for a long time that faculty could come to us for consultation on, but didn't have to, we found that a lot of people were maybe not taking advantage of all the resources that were possible for them and all the tools that they could use, just because they were limited by their own technological, comfort levels. So what we did was we created a process where the faculty member has to work with an instructional design specialist to create the course. And we, as you can imagine, we got a lot of pushback on that when we first started it, because the faculty were used to, well, just give me a shell and I'll build my stuff in it. And what we did was we said, we need to see your course outline. We want to know what your major learning outcomes are. We want to know what your learning objectives are. And then we're going to work with you on what content is going to be used to meet for instruction, for assessment, for activities, all those major learning outcomes. We're going to map all that out. Then you'll give us the content. We'll build things for you. As you can imagine, there were a lot of people calling very upset about this whole thing in the beginning. Now, 4 years later, there are people that are clamoring to work with us on this because they've realized they can spend more time thinking about the content, thinking about ways to engage students, and getting things out of their course development that they could have never done on their own. And so it's taken some time, but we do have a waiting list of people wanting to work on classes with us through most of next year already, next academic year, that is. So it's proven to be good, but it definitely, it took us some time to get people to understand that, no, really, we're going to build the course for you. That way we can make sure that we have all the accessibility needs covered. We have all the alignment that QM expects between the course outline and the major learning outcomes. We have all that in place when the course is launched.
Thank you, Vicki.
And by the way, our staff, actually, they do almost all of them. There's one that's kind of new and he's going to start teaching in the spring, but all the rest of them teach as adjuncts. So they do get that experience. They are in the classroom online, just like the faculty that they're working with. And definitely many of them are requested, I guess, by the faculty developers as, I want to work with this person that I worked with before, or I want to be able to use these resources that I have before. So it's gone really well, and it's definitely made them more comfortable. Whereas before they were doing some consultation on courses occasionally, we're doing what Michelle Piper's group does now, which is all the day-to-day support and all the training as well. So it's difficult for them.
Thank you, Vicki. Here, I just want to have a little catch up. Coming back to my original question, have you or your team members experienced the workload issue? What are the challenges and why? Is there anybody else, our panel team, you want to address that? Or anyone from the audience, if you want to share your thoughts or have questions about that, please feel free to enable your mic, share your thoughts, or type your sharing in the chat area. Just feel free to do that. And I will just go one round, the first round. Anything? Anybody else want to?
I'd like to share. This is Colleen Reiner with University of South Florida's Center for Advanced Medical Learning and Simulation. And our team has dealt with workload in a couple different ways. So one of the things that's challenging about our organization is, and We're called instructional designers. I'd be the closest one as the manager of instructional design. Many of our staff do different elements of instructional design. So we handle things from accreditation programs around the country and around the world to actually offering courses and programs on our facilities, on our so some of our courses were from the proposal stage prior to accreditation to evaluation, assessment, collecting metrics, and revising for others. So one of the challenges we faced with Workload is kind of just identifying what all of those different components are. And so one of the strategies that we're employing now is we're in the process of moving our process project management system. What we've learned is it's less so about the technology itself, but more taking the time to actually evaluate our process, see if it is the most effective thing. So one of the things that we're discovering just early on is sometimes what we think only I can be the one who does X, Y, or Z. When you actually look at it as far as the task level, there are often ways to delegate out different responsibilities. Certain team that are getting promoted, any of those things be delegated to others in a short-term scenario or even long-term as far as process. So that's been a strategy that's been pretty effective for us right now, using a project management system to evaluate our own workforce.
Thank you, Colleen. I guess I need to go to the second round. Anybody else you want to jump in to share your thoughts and the strategies? Or, starting with the challenges. Have you experienced the similar challenges?
Vicki, Westergard again. So our biggest challenge, trying to meet the needs of what the deans want to do as far as course development is concerned. Generally, we have a lot more requests for things than we have time to do them. And early on, we started off with this project having a round robin, like each person would take one course that over that's about a 5-month period. They would start with one course and then a month later they would start with another course. They decided that was way too chaotic. So what we do now is we give them 5 courses at once, and they are all working basically on the same schedule, so that when those courses finish, then they start another set of 5 courses. The problem is sometimes a dean will say, I need this course sooner than you can fit me on the schedule. Can we just squeeze something in? And occasionally we will be able to squeeze another course into a round. Obviously that does affect that instructional designer's workload. When I do that, I try to, as much as possible, leave them an opening in their next round, because chances are something squeezed in is going to kind of flow over into the next time schedule. So we flex like that as much as we can to keep them from being overwhelmed.
This is Wendy. I'm going to piggyback off of what Vicki was talking about. And I wanted to highlight, when we talk about an instructional designer's workload, based on my interactions with our sister organizations around the state, it seems like some instructional designers' workload is focused on courses, and other instructional designers' workload is focused on faculty assignments. We have a slightly different model where we support faculty who are responsible for developing their own online content with us in a coaching or consulting role. So our instructional designers, their workload is measured by their faculty caseload rather than course caseload. And so we're constantly trying to figure out how can we shuffle around faculty assignments because some faculty at different points in time are more needy than others. Some are, once we get them trained, they're self-sufficient. We never hear from them again. So we're constantly shuffling around. And, every once in a while, a special project will come along or a grant opportunity will come along, and that will necessitate reducing an instructional designer's workload and spreading it among some of the other team members so that they can take on some special assignments. So we balance it by faculty assignments rather than course assignments.
Which is interesting because Michelle Franz here, we very much mirror our institution, which is we're open access. So an instructor could walk into the e-learning space and at any given time they could work with any one of the instructional designers. We do not assign a designer to a specific faculty member nor a course. We are more just-in-time support services. Now that is something that I'm looking to change a little bit to create some consistency, because what we see happen is that people pick and choose who they want to work with based on what they want to hear. And see a lot of nodding there, but so we are starting to undergo creation of and changing the culture towards quality assurance because our faculty develop their own courses. They are not required to use an instructional designer. Some choose to, some choose not to. So we're trying to build a quality assurance scenario where we're looking at these courses, and in that way, we're going to start assigning a designer to particular courses or to particular instructors, because then I can say, well, I know XYZ instructor really loves working with this designer because this designer, isn't going to be comfortable giving them pushback. Whereas this designer is going to be more open to saying, you might want to think about doing something different and kind of pushing that envelope a little bit more to get them to embrace best practices. And so we're probably going to shift some of our model a little bit, but right now we are literally open access. You walk in, whoever is available is going to help you.
This is Michelle Piper from St. Pete College. And we're very similar to Michelle Francis' group. We're a small team. We are open access. We assign our instructional support technicians by campus. And because we have so many locations, we tend to travel quite a bit. So they have somewhat standard hours on each campus, but it may vary. One of the things that when my team was first kind of put together about 5 years ago, one of the things that we did get some pushback on, we don't require people to do this. That was a big fear, was that we suggest that they fill out a form before they meet with us. Partially because we're not on that campus every single day of the week. So I want to make sure that, somebody's physically there. Also, it helps, the form comes to me and my backup, and it helps us choose the right instructional technologist to meet with that faculty. I've been here for about 9 years now, so I have a good knowledge of my faculty. I love them all, but they absolutely all have their own personalities. They all have their own goals. They all have their own ways of working. So I want to make sure I'm assigning the right instructional technologist to work with that person. Also, I want to make sure I'm assigning the right background of content knowledge. For example, on my team, I have a graphic artist, somebody with graphic artist background, she worked in online advising for about 11 years, so she really knows the student side, and somebody who's a mathematics major. All have master's degrees or higher instructional technology, but if somebody has a really complicated grade book that they want to set up, chances are I'm going to send the mathematics major to set that up. And she's really, really good at doing the formulas and things like that. The teammate we had come from online advising, she's relatively new. She's only been here since March. She has learned so quickly, but I don't tend to send her out yet to the really, really complicated one. She's just not there yet. But she will be by the end of this year. So I like the form. We did get some, kickback on it originally, but I think faculty understand it now. And they also understand that there's still days when they can stop in our offices and just say hi and ask a question. But given the number of locations and how small the team is, it makes it easier to make sure. And we always bill it as, we want to make it convenient for you. So when you're available, and we will come and meet with you personally. We really put that personalized tone on it, and that's helped quite a bit to kind of sell that. And it also helps us to keep track of what's being asked, when it's being asked. Should we do trainings on this because we're seeing an uptick in this number of questions on this item? So it helps us on the back end as well. But it's been a learning experience for myself and for our faculty, but I think a good one.
Thank you, Michelle. We noticed that there have been wonderful discussions and sharings in the chat. We really want to hear from you. So please feel free either enable your microphone or type your questions or thoughts or sharing in the chat area. So thank you.
Selena, I noticed, this is Michelle Franz. I noticed that you mentioned that you use a service ticket system. We use one too at Seminole State. We actually purchased one just for e-learning so that we could manage our workflow and not have the redundancy. I'm forgetting who said it on the front end when we were introducing ourselves, that, you know, then we don't have people who are answering the same thing multiple times with the same person. People take out, you know, assign themselves tickets and then they manage that process. The other thing that we do that seems to help with workload to a degree is that we have a phone schedule. And so what we do is each instructional designer and my systems analyst, along with the DE support specialist, you know, they take certain hours of a day to manage the phone and walk-ins so that everybody else can have project time. And there's not this, you know, consistent line of people and phone calls and things that you have to do to kind of put out fires, but you actually have consistent time at your desk where you can dedicate something to a project that you have to work on.
Curious, Vicki mentioned something earlier about development timelines, and I'm kind of curious for you guys, institutions that have simultaneous development versus staggered. In my experience, there's kind of pros and cons to each. From my past experience, I ran into more workload issues with simultaneous development, but I know that there's often scope creep with staggered, so I'm kind of curious what everyone thinks about development timelines.
Well, this is Vicki. We decided to have staggered development timelines because we do have that team of 4 instructional design technicians building things. And we also have, you know, the captionist and the graphic designers. And we didn't want it to be that everybody's first modules were coming in all at once and needing things. So we figured if we could stagger those, it would be a more even flow work to the instructional design technicians and others on that team. So it wasn't really from the instructional design specialist standpoint, because they're still working on, you know, courses back to back, but really more for that. And also we tend to have sometimes certain faculty members in programs that are smaller where there aren't a lot of full-time faculty or not a lot of subject matter, for example, computer programming. We have a lot of the same people that develop things over and over. So it gives them the ability to work on one course and then in the next cycle to start another course, as opposed to maybe having 2 courses that they have to do at the same time.
Someone from the audience asked, would you please share some project management strategies and tools that can help us better manage the instructional designers' workload issue?
A couple of very simple tips. If you're asking about project management tools, I was going to be sure to mention today that when we have some larger team level projects rather than individual projects, we have a system called Basecamp, so that we can share files, we can share announcements, we can share information. It allows you to actually link in the files area to Google Docs or OneDrive docs that are shareable documents that we can continue to work on, but it keeps all of our shared work in one space. So that's a great tool. The other thing I'm going to mention is when it comes to project management and time management, meetings seem to be the time suck that kills all of us. So I'm a stickler for efficient meetings, whether it's a team meeting or an individual consultation with a faculty member. I try really hard to set expectation that there are certain things we can do prior to the meeting in preparation to make the meeting an efficient use of time rather than an hour of, you know, brainstorming what are we going to do, and trying to sort that out. So wherever there can be some kind of pre-work that makes sense, that's going to make more efficient use of your time when you're together, because there's nothing worse than getting pulled into a meeting where you know you're going to bring your laptop and your phone and take care of 10 other things because it's a useless waste of time. So that's a pet peeve of mine. The other meeting tip that I learned from our provost is we tend out of habit, we tend to book 1-hour meetings because, it fits nicely into a schedule. There are typically 8 1-hour blocks in an 8-hour workday. So we block 1-hour meetings. But then there's no one to the next, and there's no time to address self-care in between meetings either. So she books all of her meetings for 45 minutes, and I'm trying to do the same so that you have a 15-minute buffer each hour to either take care of yourself, take care of something that needs to be addressed, or get to another location for your next meeting. And what I found is going from 1 hour to 45 minutes, just that little shift, also people to be more efficient with the limited time that you have.
Thank you, Wendy. And I'm sure in our audience, there are a lot of experts who have been using different project management strategies and tools to help support our work. If you have anything you want to share, please feel free to talk with us.
This is Colleen Reiner from USF. I've used a number of different project management systems over the years, and I think the biggest thing to keep in mind is that a technology itself isn't going to solve your problems. It's really how you use it, and I think it's a constant evolution and a process where you're going to start a project management system with that, whatever our process is today is not going to stay that way. It makes it a lot easier to accept and to adapt as needed. The other thing that I'd say is it's really helpful to break things into phases with project management systems so that way there are smaller accomplishments, especially in course development. As you all know, it can be very fatiguing to see, here's the 5 million tasks that I need to do by the end of the semester, instead of saying, okay, in this phase right now, these are the things that I need to accomplish within the next. So those are some strategies that I'd recommend.
This is Michelle. I'm Michelle Franz. I'm going to take it from a different approach and shy away from actual tools and talk a little bit about how project management is only as strong as the leader of the project. And we can have all the deadlines and all the tools and all the spreadsheets in the world, but if the leader of a project isn't keeping things on task, then there's going to be no use for it, and then it just kind of falls to the wayside, and we have very pretty spreadsheets and very pretty timelines that no one is adhering to. So from that perspective, if you are not the person managing a project, it's important for you to talk to that person and make sure that you are staying on track and being a little bit more of a self-starter and making sure that you're meeting the commitments that you need to be meeting. In my current situation, all 4 of my instructional designers manage their projects a different way. And so I can put everybody in a tool and ask them to work the same way, but then they're not going to be successful in doing that because some people are really good with keeping track of software. Other people are really good about keeping it in their head. Some people use their email. Some people use their calendar. And so I know I'm coming across as the kind of chaos manager, but not everybody works the same way in the same thing. And so keeping that in mind, and making sure that folks who maybe aren't comfortable in a particular tool or are tighter on timelines, if you are a manager, that you're, regularly checking in with those folks and saying, where are you? Not being a lover of a lot of meetings either, just stopping into an office and saying, hey, I noticed that this deliverable is due soon. Anything I can help you with? Or, do you feel like you're going to meet your deadlines? And being proactive and encouraging. I think another thing that helps with project management, again, as experienced with my team, is putting folks in leadership of projects that they might actually have a genuine interest in, to the extent that you can, because if they're interested in it, they're engaged in it, and they're going to want to be timely and involved in it. If it's something that they dread, they're going to wait till the last minute. That's how we all work, right? So we're just going to push it off until we have to do it, and then we're going to do it. It may not be done as timely or as well as we would like for it to be. So work is work for a reason. We all do things that we don't want to do, but to the extent that you can ask folks as part of their workload to do things that they consider fun or engaging, that's, I think, a really good strategy as well.
Geni, and to follow up with what Michelle said, I'm certainly not an advocate for using technology for the sake of just using technology. Even in the chat, somebody wrote, certain like Microsoft Project is overkill, which would not be a great tool to use if nobody's planning on using it. So you have to meet your team individually where they are. So if they are an advocate of using something like a Google Doc to kind of monitor their project workload and their timelines, then by all means, in the communication with that team member, recognizing that that's the resource that works best for them. If it's Microsoft Teams, if it's Outlook, wherever their support mechanism works best, it certainly helps to navigate their workflow from that capacity. And again, similar to Michelle, is also recognizing and having an understanding of where your team members are and a level of interest and stretch projects and professional development. Able to provide them opportunities to learn and develop within the workflow certainly gets them a lot more engaged and more interested in certain projects that we all know need to take place. But navigating that process with an individual who is really interested in something like analytics and data, that would certainly make more sense than somebody like myself who is really apprehensive with working with something like data. So I wouldn't be as successful as a team member in that capacity, and would likely kind of drag my feet and procrastinate and then would slow the project down. So I think it's meeting your team where they are, whether it's technology or professional development, and helping to kind of guide them in strategies that work best for them.
Another thing I think too, Michelle, again, is that one thing that we do here is we're not afraid to ask for help. And so we reach out to faculty and ask faculty if they want to present workshops with us, or we're unionized. Our faculty is unionized, and they get college service and they get professional development requirements as part of their contract. So where we can leverage asking faculty to help us with things, we do that, because that minimizes what our design staff has to do. And it also engages faculty and also creates a more collaborative and collegial environment between faculty peers. So we try to do quite a bit of that here.
Thank you, everyone, and how wonderful discussions and sharing. And time is almost up. Well, would you please help us fill out a very, very brief survey for this session and provide your feedback and help us to keep improving our services. And the survey link is in the chat area. Before we leave, I have another very quick question, just wants to pour everybody. We are in higher education environment, and we constantly experience the last minute instructor change or hiring. And so can you provide some strategies for better managing last minute instructor changes and course assignments, course developments, or course revision?
Thank you, Westergard. When we first started off this project, we had to beg people to work with us on course development. And now we get a lot more people wanting to do that, but still sometimes people move out of state and they leave the college, or they get a promotion, or whatever happens. Some of our people that have developed with us in the past are now deans or in other higher positions. The same thing with our instructional designers. We've had several that have left for other things. The last person that left, what I did was I took the instructional design technician, I assigned one of them, and we've started doing this with all of our courses now, even though they may not build every one of the interactives for a course, assign one as a liaison. So that person goes to all the meetings that the instructional designer does with the faculty, so that they're up to speed on what's happening with the project and what the faculty is looking for and what the progress is. And what I did was I took that person and had them kind of be the bridge between the original instructional design specialist who moved to Indiana and the new one who came in. And of course, we never do things where we have someone starting the day after someone else leaves. There was a little time in there that the instructional design technician was able to kind of keep things moving and not let those balls fall. And that way we didn't get tremendously behind on our deliverables. So, the other advantage to that was particular instructional design technician felt like he got a great insight into what it might be like to be an instructional design specialist. He considered applying for the position when it opened up and decided after he saw what the job duties were like and what the reality was, he liked what he was doing. And it gave him that opportunity to see from the other side and to help us bridge that gap.
Thank you, Vicki. Do we have any other thoughts or comments or something you want to share? I mean, I wish we could have longer time for today's session, but how time flies. I hope this session is helpful for you. Thank you, our panel team members. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Have a wonderful afternoon.